Locker Room, with all the sports news you need, live.
Good evening, everyone, and a very, very happy Easter Sunday to you all. Hope you've had a fantastic day. I was going to say an excellent day, but that would just be wrong. My name's Graham Duffy. Sorry for a slightly later review of the weekend action, but obviously being Easter Sunday, it's been very busy. But I thought I wanted to do a show tonight and put even an hour or so into this. So I'm going to fly solo tonight because it was my idea, really, so why not? So I'm going to review the games at the weekend. And I'll be here for roughly about an hour or so, depending on how well this goes or how poorly it goes, you never know. So let's look back at the action from this weekend. And before I do, I just want to say well done to Falkirk for their promotion from League One, and they will be joining the Championship next season. They already were up before that game yesterday, but they hammered Montrose by 7-1, and the scenes were fantastic. You know, really, really impressive for Falkirk, and I think they'll be a really good addition to the Championship next season. Fantastic job by John McGlynn. They've gone the season unbeaten. Magnificent job, and generally, they've had a fantastic season. So fair play to Falkirk for getting promoted. But let's look back at the weekend action in the Premiership, and we'll start with the lunchtime game this afternoon that took place at the Tony Macaroni. They're not for much longer because that'll be getting renamed. And it did finish Livingston 0, Celtic 3. An own goal from Jamie Brandon. All the goals came in the second half. An own goal from Jamie Brandon, although Rio Hatate, just back from injury, had a big hand in that. A fantastic goal from Paolo Bernardo and a third goal from Matt O'Reilly gave Celtic a very, very comfortable afternoon. Now, we'll get to Celtic now before I talk about Livingston. I thought Celtic were pretty much in cruise control that whole game. I thought first half they had a lot of possession, maybe didn't really test Jamal George enough. There was a penalty claim, of course, in the first half. Mikey Devlin's challenge on Kyogo that wasn't given. I think it did go to VAR, but it was very quickly ruled out. I think that was a penalty, if I'm going to be honest. That it was, he did catch him on the kind of back of the knee, but for me, it's a penalty, but it wasn't given. And it just goes to show again that the standard of officiation this season has not been good enough. And it's not just Scotland, it's England as well. I'm not just going to single out Scottish football because it's been everywhere. But that was a big moment in the game, or it certainly could have been. And I think had Celtic not won that game, that would have been brought up a lot more. But it was a penalty. But Livingston didn't really offer anything. I thought they defended okay. Celtic's kind of main aim, I think, was really get the ball out wide to the left for Maeda up against Michael Nottingham. And I thought, again, Maeda was all right, but he didn't have one of his better games, I don't think. But that was the outball every time. But they didn't really test Jamal George enough. Second half, once they get the first goal, and it was always going to be the case, I think once Celtic got that first goal, it was going to be how many they were going to get. And it was a scramble. It was a very, very scrappy goal. But as James E. rightly put in the comment section when the goal was scored, it doesn't matter how it goes in, as long as it goes in. And Celtic got that goal. And again, I think if I'm a Celtic fan, I'm delighted that Rio Hatate was back today. And I thought first half he controlled the game. I really thought he was excellent in that first half. And he's a fantastic player. Now, I did say last week that I think Celtic are getting players back at the right time because obviously Kyogo, although he didn't score today, has looked a lot more like himself. Callum McGregor will be back soon. They've got Hatate back now. They've got the fact that Carter Vickers is there now. So Celtic getting players back at the right time going into that big, big game next week, which we'll get onto very, very shortly. But like I said, Celtic were very comfortable. They were in cruise control. Once they got the first goal, it was no doubt they were going to win the game. I thought Livingston, as always, worked hard enough, but they just don't have that quality up front. I would say, though, for Livingston, and I said it on Twitter during the game, one thing I'm actually quite like about Livingston is Tete Yengi up front. I think he looks a really, really good player. He's a handful. He's physical. He's got a bit of pace about him. I think he's a really good signing for Livingston. One of the very few I think they've got right. But they didn't get enough ball up to him to really cause problems to get in behind. But I actually thought he was a handful today. But Celtic do get a second goal through Paolo Bernardo. It's a fantastic strike. Low into the corner. Absolutely no chance for Jamal George, who I thought had a decent game, especially second half. And actually, Jamal George is a decent goalkeeper. I've always thought that. When you're at Livingston, you're going to be busy. And I thought Jamal George was a really good goalkeeper. So I thought he did well to kind of keep the score down second half. And then Matt O'Reilly, who again, I've said numerous times, is a fantastic footballer. Maybe not one of his better seasons, But he scores a third goal. And again, another really good finish from Mattarelli, who, again, is just a fantastic footballer. And Celtic got the job done. And it was important that they did. After Rangers winning yesterday, they had to win that game. And I just think Celtic were just so comfortable today. You know, again, you look at the stands today, pretty much it was full of Celtic fans. And I've said this before, Livingston don't have the fan base. That was a home game for Celtic today. And for me, I've said it before, and I know there's a whole budget thing. I know there's a lot of buses that leave Livingston to go to Celtic Park or Ibrox. But for me, for a home game, the away fans should never outnumber the home fans. It's really poor. But it was pretty much like a home game for Celtic. And like I said, once they got the first goal, they were always going to win that game. They were very, very comfortable. A lot of positives for Celtic to take. Like I've said, the players that they've got back, they've scored 3 goals. They're back to the top of the league going into that game next week. But Rangers will have a game in hand when they play Dundee. But it was a big win for Celtic today. They had to get 3 points after Rangers winning that game yesterday against Hibs, which we'll get to shortly. And they won it very comfortably. Like, there was never any doubt Celtic going in that game. I suppose maybe at halftime, Celtic fans might have thought, oh, we're struggling here a little bit. Still 0-0. Is there a chance that Livingston could maybe sneak something? I never thought that. At any point during the game, I never thought Livingston were going to do enough to get anything out of that game. I mean, Joe Hart could have gone and sat in the stand because he didn't have a lot to do. But like I say, it's just that lack of quality from Livingston. Now, Livingston are not going down because of what's happened today. They're going down because they've not been good enough over the season. Now, before I come on to Livingston, I just want to say that game next week, and we'll be doing a show next week, obviously, on the Friday night, 5 till 7, and then we'll be back on Sunday as well, obviously, after that game next week at Ibrox. But that's such a big, big game next week. You know, it's going to be build up all week as a title decider. I don't think it is yet, to be honest. There's another game to come. So I don't think next week's a title decider by any means. And also, you've got to take into the fact that Motherwell beat Rangers at Ibrox. Hearts have beat Celtic twice. So there's a potential that other teams could cause those two teams problems. It might not happen, but there is that chance. But, you know, it does set up for a great game next week. It really does. And the thing is, right, you see like Super Sunday, like English Premiership games getting built up, like that game today, Man City Arsenal. That was built up into a fantastic game of football, and it was dire. It was really poor. I don't think the Rangers Celtic game will be quite as bad as that. I think there'll be goals in that game. It could be a very tense atmosphere. But as a neutral, I'm looking forward to the game. I generally think it could be a decent game next week, and whoever wins, fair play. But in terms of Livingston, I mean, they are 10 points behind. They know they're down, and they just don't have enough quality. They've conceded far too many goals. They don't score enough goals. I know that David Martindale has already said that they'll keep on fighting, which he's going to have to do, but they are down, and they'll be down for weeks. And I think I've said it before as well. If I'm a Livingston fan, the one thing that would worry me is when they go down, I don't think they'll come back up for a while. I really don't, because that championship is going to be very interesting next season. You've got, looking at the teams that are in there just now, right? Now, let's say, for example, United and Wraith came up. One promoted, one through the playoff. Then you could potentially have Livingston, either Ross County or St Johnstone. Then you've got Partick, Dunfermline, Morton, Airdrie, Ayr, Inverness. It's a really difficult league to get out of. And I think they could struggle. And I genuinely think if they go down, or when they go down, they'll be there for a couple of seasons at least. I really do feel that. And again, you've got to worry as well that Livingston are going to lose quite a few players. They've already lost James Penrice, who's coming to Hearts on a pre-contract. I don't think Tete Yenge will stay. They could lose Joel Nublu, who I don't think's Hearts in it anymore. I know he wasn't playing today, but I think Nublu's one of the better players. Jason Holt, is he going to want to stay? Scott Pittman, is he going to want to stay? Defensively, they're not good enough. I mean, I think Devlin's a decent defender, but again, is he really what Livingston need for that championship? Michael Nottingham, for me, is not good enough. Obalai is not good enough. So I think there'll be a lot of players to leave Livingston. And the question is, who can they bring in that's got quality for the championship? And again, the biggest thing is, and I've said this before on the show to Michael and anyone else that's been watching as well, is if David Martindale does go, who's going to want that Livingston job? Because it's always talked about budget, certainly for David Martindale's point of view anyway. It's always about the budget. Who can they bring in? Really? Now, we've had a lot of folk talk about Brian Rice, maybe Jack Ross. Are they going to want that job? It's very difficult. And I think the other thing as well is that David Martindale has pretty much total control at Livingston. Will any other manager have that? I don't think so. But Livingston have had a very poor season. Now, next week, they're away to Easter Road, a game that I really don't think they're going to win. I really think they're going to struggle. And no, sorry, they're not. They're not away to Easter Road. I'm talking absolute nonsense. They're at home to Aberdeen. Now, at home against Aberdeen, is that a game they could potentially win? Well, Aberdeen have now managed to win yesterday on the back of the 1-0 win against Motherwell before the international break. So they have picked up a little bit under Peter Leaving. They may potentially have a new manager in this week, although who knows who that's going to be. But Livingston, for me, they've just had such a poor season defensively. And that's why they're going down. Like I said, today, they were never going to win that game. And my prediction was 3-0 Celtic, so I was right. But Livingston just need to brace themselves for Championship, because that's where they're going to be. And I think the biggest thing they've got to decide is, and David Martin has got to decide is he going to be loyal and stay, or is he going to think, do you know what, I've done my time here, maybe it's time to leave? Is he going to show loyalty? We'll soon find out. But very, very comfortable win that today for Celtic, and there was never any doubt after the first goal they were going to win the game. And like I said, it sets that up massively for next week. And getting on to the team they're going to be playing next week, Rangers took on Hibs yesterday at Ibrox, and it was Rangers 3, Hibs 1. Rangers took the lead after 26 minutes through James Tavernier. Malouda equalised after 45 minutes, but injury time, which went on for ages. Cyril Dessers did manage to score his 17th goal of the season, and Ravi Matondo wrapped it up in the 85th minute to give Rangers a comfortable win, I would say, because Hibs did only have one shot on target. Now, there was controversy because in the first half, Rangers got a penalty on 21 minutes for a Triantis challenge on John Souttar. The referee was asked to go and look at the monitor, David Dickinson, maybe should stick to bargain hunt. He went to look at it and he gave the penalty. I think it's very harsh, if I'm going to be honest. I don't know what Triantis is meant to do there. I think it's very, very harsh. If that's the end, is that going to be given? I don't think so. I think it's extremely harsh. But James Tavernier comes up. His penalty is saved by David Marshall, and following up was Scott Wright, who did score, but it was pulled back because it was encroachment from Scott Wright, so the goal wasn't in the end given. And there has been a bit of not controversy, but there's been a bit of annoyance from certain people about the tweet that Hibs Football Club put out, because they put out a tweet that said who had 20 minutes for penalty for Rangers. Now, that's not going down with certain people. I thought it was quite funny, but I'm a football fan, so. But yeah, Rangers did eventually take the lead through James Tavernier. A fantastic finish, and I think Rangers again deserve to be ahead in the first half. Hibs only had one shot on target, and it was a goal he scored. Although again, as a Hearts fan, I have to give credit to Malouda, because I think he's been excellent so far. I think that's goal number 5 for him this season, and he does really well because it's a really good finish from him. And I think he has looked his best player for me so far. At that point, Hibs think they're going on level at half-time, but Cyril Dessers is a really good header. Very good header. And like I said, Cyril Dessers has now got 17 goals a season. Yeah, he's a bit of an enigma because he misses so many chances. He missed a couple of chances in the second half as well. But is 17 goals a bad turn for him? I don't think it is. But I think the biggest thing is he should have more than that. You know, he could be easily the same amount of goals as Lawrence Shankland if he took the chances they had. But it's a really good header. And like I said, I think at that point, Rangers did deserve to be ahead because they were really in control of the game. Hibs didn't really offer too much going forward. And Rangers could have added to the lead quite comfortably. But they do add to lead in the second half. It's a great finish from Ravi Matondo, who, again, I think is a really good player. I think now he's back from injury, I think he'll be a big, big player for Rangers. He just gives that bit more pace up front. And the big thing for Rangers as well is they did manage to get Adala Sima back on the park, who again looked really sharp when he came on. So I'm talking about Celtic getting players back for the game next week. Rangers are getting players back as well. So it's going to be a very interesting title race. I've already said, I'm going to stick my neck on the block here. I think the title race will go to the last day and it'll be Helicopter Sunday again. I really do. And as a neutral, I actually quite like that. I mean, I've no horse in the race, so it doesn't bother me, but I think it could be interesting. But yesterday, you look at the stats, and Rangers were completely dominant. They had 24 shots in total to Hibs 6, and they had 8 shots on target to Hibs 1. So you can easily tell that Rangers deserved to win that game, and they could have won the game by more. In terms of Hibs, again, that game's not gonna have any massive effect. I think Nick Montgomery so far has done a decent job. There were a lot of draws. Now, there is 2 games left until the split. Hibs are currently sitting outside the top 6 in 7th. There's 2 games to go, like I said. Now, next week they play St Johnstone at Easter Road, a game that I think they'll win because St Johnstone they were better yesterday. I'll come on to that shortly. But they just don't, for me, have that bit of quality you need up front. And I think Hibs will win that game at Easter Road next week. And then it could all be set up for that last game before the split, which is Motherwell against Hibs. And you don't know what you're going to get with Motherwell. They are very up and down, so that game could be interesting. Now, I've been asked before, do I think Hibs will get top 6? I think they might just sneak in the very last game, but it's so tight. But like I said, I think I can see what Montgomery's trying to do, and I think he does need more time. I've heard some Hibs fans say previously that he needs to be sacked. I don't agree with that, even as a Hearts fan. I think I can see what he's trying to do. They did have Martin Boyle back on the bench yesterday, who again will be a big threat. But Hibs, for them, it's all about getting that top 6, and I think they will get it. In terms of Rangers, like I said, they did deserve to win the game yesterday, and it's a great achievement for James Tavernier, who the goals he has scored, I know a lot of folk will say, but a lot of them are penalties. Still have to score them, though. And he's just been a fantastic captain for Rangers. The amount of goals he scores from right back is incredible, and fair play to him. But like I said, Rangers did deserve to win the game. They were very comfortable. Apart from that, obviously, one controversial incident in the first half, there wasn't really much else for David Dickinson to do. But Rangers were just so comfortable. Very comfortable. And like I said, sets it up brilliantly for that game next week. Let's move on to my team and the game that I was at yesterday, which was Hearts against Kilmarnock at Tynecastle, which finished Hearts 1, Kilmarnock 1. I was there, and I think a draw was fair. Kenny Vargas scored the opening goal after 10 minutes from Hearts. I think the first time we scored a goal in the first 10 minutes for a long time. And from then on, I thought Hearts were the better team. First half, I thought we controlled a lot of the game. I mean, Kilmarnock have that threat going forward, out wide. You know what you're going to get with Killie. They're going to get balls in the box. They're going to be very difficult to defend against. And I thought they had that threat with Watkins, Vassell, Armstrong and Kennedy. And Kilmarnock did get equalised the second half, and it's a fantastic strike from Marley Watkins. Absolutely brilliant finish. I think Hearts should defend it better. But first half, like I said, I thought Hearts played well, had some decent chances to go 2-0 up. George Grant, I think, should score, but easily held by the goalkeeper. Kilmarnock did have a threat going forward, like I said. An absolutely world-class save from Xander Clark at the first half to keep Marley Watkins out, although I think Watkins probably should score, but it's a great save. And like I said, they had that threat going forward. I was never comfortable watching the game. I was never comfortable. I thought Hearts, Shankland in the first half tried his best to link things up. It just didn't quite happen. George Grant was really poor. But second half, I think the game changed. I thought we lost the midfield battle. I thought Kilmarnock were the better team second half. And if I'm going to be honest and say who I think deserved to win, I would probably say Kilmarnock. Second half, they pile balls into the box. They caused us a lot of problems. They are so dangerous at set pieces. I mean, generally, they are such a threat going forward. With the height they've got, Stuart Finlay had a couple of decent chances in the game. The one thing I would say is Hearts haven't dropped anything. You know, I left the game yesterday not disappointed. Maybe a bit frustrated that we didn't do enough second half, having controlled the first half, I thought. But it's a point apiece, and we're still 11 points clear with, 7 games to go. So I'm not overly worried. I do still think we'll get third place. We've got St Mirren next week at St Mirren, which will be a difficult game. Of course it will be. But positive for me, for Hearts, before I got to Kilmarnock, Kenny Vargas got his 8th goal of the season on the back of signing that new 5-year contract, which I'm really pleased about because I think he's a really good player. He's only 21. He's going to get better with more games. I'm really pleased with that. The big positive for me yesterday was Frankie Kent back in defence. I thought he was fantastic again. Up against a guy like Kyle Vassell, who is very physical. When Vassell goes off, they then bring on Kevin Van Veen, who I'm going to be honest, I was worried would probably score. But I thought Frankie Kent was excellent last night. I think we needed him yesterday. Really, I think we did. So there were positives. In terms of Kilmarnock, like I said, fair play to Derek McInnes. Yesterday, secured a top 6 place for them. And I heard Derek McInnes talking after the game about how proud he was of his team. And so he should be. I think they've done a fantastic job to finish top 6 this season. I generally think Kilmarnock, and we said it months and months ago, I think they won the January window and the summer one as well, to be honest. Surprisingly yesterday for me that David Watson didn't start, because I think, again, he's a really, really good player. If you look at like some Motherwell with Lennon Miller, I think both him and David Watson get kind of the same kind of treatment in terms of who's better. I don't think we need to worry about that. I think all you've got to say is they are both fantastic players playing in the Scottish League. That's what I'm looking at. But I was surprised that Watson didn't start yesterday. But like I said, for me, I just think Killie will finish top four. Now, hopefully they don't finish third, but I don't think they will. But I think they will finish top four. And what a job Derek McInnes has done. Now, is there a thing that might say that could Aberdeen have gone back for Derek McInnes as manager? I don't think that would have worked again, to be honest. But the job is done. You can only take your hat off to Derek McInnes because he's done a fantastic job. And I've said it previously, right, about different managers. I think certain managers suit certain clubs. Derek McInnes, I think, suits Kilmarnock. I really think he does. And again, come the summer, certainly if they get European football, they will strengthen again. Now, they may lose a few players, but I think they'll definitely strengthen again. And I think if I'm a Killie fan, I'm ecstatic about what they've done. And I know that Laurie, our Kilmarnock fan that comes on at times, and obviously a Kilmarnock fan that I know as well, a guy called Ross, who sometimes comes in the chat, they are very, very pleased with Kilmarnock, and so they should be, because I think they've done an outstanding job. They really do sign really well. They know their capabilities. And like I said, out wide, they got Danny Armstrong and Matty Kennedy, who just cause so many problems. And I'll be honest, if there was one player I would take from Kilmarnock as a Hearts fan, I would love Danny Armstrong, but I don't think it'll happen. But generally, what a job Derek McInnes has done. And like I said, I think they'll finish top four. In terms of Hearts, like I said, I'm not disappointed. I'd have liked us to win, of course, because if we won yesterday, 14 points clear, I think it's definitely done. I think third place is done. But I'm really pleased at what Stephen Naismith has done. Now, I said months and months ago that I thought he was the wrong man for the job. I changed my opinion on that after the run that he went on. But there's a lot of positives. A lot of positives to take from this season. And if we get third wrapped up soon, hopefully that'll happen maybe next week if we can beat St Mirren and Kilmarnock drop points against Ross County. I'm not confident though. But honestly, what a job. I'm really pleased with Stephen Naismith and the job that he's done. And again, we've already made 3 signings. Jan Danda, Blair Spittle, who I know that Stephen is not happy about, and James Penrice are coming to Hearts on pre-contract. So I'm really pleased with the business that Hearts have done. We will sign more players in the summer and we will lose a few more players. So yeah, I'm really, really pleased with the job that Hearts have done. And hopefully we will get third place wrapped up soon, and then I can relax and we can look forward to a semi-final of the Scottish Cup against Rangers in a few weeks' time. So let's go to a team that has been struggling and at the moment still has no manager, and it was Aberdeen 2, Ross County 1 at Pittodrie. An own goal gave Aberdeen the lead after 5 minutes, although Majowski did try to claim it, but there's no way that's his goal. Simon Murray did equalise for Ross County, but Jamie McGrath, who I think has been a really good signing for Aberdeen, did make it 2-1 on 78 minutes, and a big, big win for Aberdeen. They had to win that game at home. I'll come on to Ross County shortly, but in terms of Aberdeen, again, I watched the highlights yesterday. I thought Ross County were slightly unfortunate not to take something out of the game because they had chances, but fair play to Aberdeen. And I think Peter Levan so far has done a decent job in temporary charge. Now, I know that he doesn't want the job full time. I think he said that already. And he's also said that anyone that turns down Aberdeen is basically an idiot, and I agree with that. Aberdeen are a big club. They should be doing better than that. But it's a big, big win for Aberdeen. I think they had to win that game. Now, again, I think the chances of the top 6 are very, very slim. But it's a big win for them. They had to win that game yesterday. And, you know, I think if I'm Peter Levan, I'm delighted with aspects of the game. I think defensively they were disappointing with the goal they lost to Simon Murray. But going forward, I think they do look a threat, though. With guys like McGrath, Majowski, Duke, they are a threat. But I do think they were fortunate to win the game yesterday, given the highlights that I've seen, because County had plenty of chances yesterday. But it's a big, big win for Aberdeen. And they've got to take positives from that because, like Hearts, they've got a semi-final of the Scottish Cup coming up soon against Celtic. Now, they've got to take heart from the last 2 games, where before the international break, they beat Motherwell. Sorry, Stephen, if you're watching this, mate. And now they beat Ross County, so that's 2 big wins. Given what's happened since Neil Warnock's gone, now the manager situation must be getting to them a little bit. It's that uncertainty of who's going to get the job. Now, I think on Friday when we did the show, I did say that Alan Burrows has been on Twitter and he was also on Aberdeen TV saying that they are very close to an appointment. Who it's going to be, nobody knows. I think there's a big sense of not knowing what's happening. Now, there's a lot of talk about Neil Lennon. I heard a discussion last night on radio, which was very, very funny, talking about Neil Lennon, talking about Jack Ross, and I can't remember the other guy's name that was mentioned there as well. If I'm an Aberdeen fan, do I want Neil Lennon? Now, I think you might not get great football under Lennon, but you will get a manager that will be bold in his decisions. He won't take any nonsense from certain players, and he might get the best out of that team. Would I want Jack Ross? No, not a chance. Look at the sackings that he's had recently. I think there's a reason that Jack Ross isn't in a big job just now, because at the moment I don't think he's good enough. I think Neil Lennon probably would make sense. There's a lot of talk about a Swedish manager as well, Jimmy Thielen, but I don't think he wants the job. But Aberdeen, I think the one thing that I would dig with Alan Burrows on when he talked on Aberdeen TV, and he was right, they have to get this appointment right because the last few have failed miserably. Now, that's probably harsh on Barry Robson, who I actually think did a decent job. I think he did a really good job. And I think they sacked him too soon. He did really well in Europe. I don't think they got the points that they deserved. In the league, yes, they went up and down, but I think Barry Robson, given more of a chance, I think would have got them up the league. Now, could you potentially keep Peter Leaving in charge at the end of the season? I don't think that's a viable option anymore because, like I said, Alan Burrows seems to think they'll want a manager in soon, but they've got to get it sorted. Because after Neil Warnock left, and I listened to Neil Warnock's kind of press conference after that, and it made it sound like they had a manager already in place, and that clearly isn't the case. But in terms of the game yesterday, it's a big, big win for Aberdeen. I thought Majowski looked much more like his old self, although he didn't score. I think he made a lot of good runs. He caused Ross County problems at the back. And I think Jamie McGrath is such a good player. I think he's underrated. There's a lot of Hearts fans who probably like myself when McGrath didn't come to Hearts were kind of thinking, oh, that's fine, didn't want him anyway. But I think he's done well at Aberdeen. I genuinely think, again, like managers suit certain clubs, I think certain players suit certain clubs. And I think McGrath's done a decent job there. It's a good finish as well in the second half. In terms of Ross County, on the back of that win against Hearts, I actually thought they played well yesterday from the highlights that I saw. Very unfortunate to get a point. Really good goal by Simon Murray, who never seems to smile when he scores. Don't know why that is. But they had plenty of chances. I thought Jan Dando looked really good. And I thought they were unfortunate to get a point out of the game. Now, again, games are running out. They are, at the moment, a point behind St Johnstone. Their next game is away to Killie next week. I would love them to get a point or something out of that game. But I actually think Don Cowie's done a decent job there. He couldn't do any worse than Derek Adams did. And the one thing about Don Cowie that I quite like is the way that he talks. You listen to Derek Adams and it's all somebody else's fault and it's the Scottish League is really poor and throws players under the bus. Don Cowie doesn't do that. I think Don Cowie comes across a really nice guy. I think he's getting the best out of that team. Obviously, they're going to lose Jan Danda in the summer when it comes to Hearts. But I think Ross County have got a chance of staying up. I think it's between them and St Johnstone for that playoff place. And I probably fancy Ross County more than I do St Johnstone, to be honest. Because I think Ross County have got something about them that I just don't think St Johnstone have. Just let me have a drink here. Good evening to a Dundee fan, Gregor. Evening, lads. Happy that I got my prediction correct. Just me tonight, Gregor. I kind of decided to do a very last-minute show just to talk about the games at the weekend because it is Easter after all. I'll get to Dundee very shortly, but I think Ross County, for me, are doing okay under Don Cowie. Now, whether he gets a job permanently, I don't know. Again, that's something that'll have to be decided in the summer. And I suppose if he keeps them up, then I think he'll probably get the job full time. And for me, the one thing I would say about Don Cowie, I think he's got the players playing for him, which I don't think Derek Adams really had. And that's going to happen when you throw your players under the bus constantly. Don Cowie hasn't done that. I don't think he's the type of guy that's going to do that. So you can see that the Ross County players are working for Don Cowie. And that's all you can ask for. If you've got a team that's going to run, going to fight, going to work, that's what you want as a manager. And they're doing that. They just need to have that bit more quality up front. Because like I said, they had chances yesterday and didn't take them. But if I'm a Ross County fan, I'm looking at these last couple of games against Hearts and Aberdeen, and I'm positive. I genuinely think I'll be quite positive. And I think that game against Kilmarnock next week is going to be a big, big game for them. Because like I said, with St Johnstone going to Hibs, if Ross County could win that game against Killie next week, that could be massive with games running out. But you know what? If I'm a Ross County fan right now, and I don't know if the Ross County fans watching this, if I was told that Don Kerr was going to get the job full time, I think I'd be happy with that. I really do think I'd be happy with that. But Aberdeen did win the game. And like I said, looking at the league table just now, Aberdeen, they won't get top 6, I don't think. I mean, they're not far away, but I don't think they'll get top 6. But again, big games to come because Aberdeen go to Livingston next week, and that's a game that they should win. If they don't win that, I'll be worried for them. Let's move on now let's go to Gregor's team because he's on the chat. St Johnstone 1, Dundee 2. Dundee took the lead through Lyle Cameron. St Johnstone equalised on 60 minutes through Sidibe, who I thought looked a real handful, but they did win the game, Dundee, with a goal in the 80th minute from Bakayoko. Ross, the Kelly fan, hi Graham, how's you after the game yesterday? I'm all right, Ross, mate. I'm not too disappointed, not too frustrated. We're still 11 points clear, so yeah, I'm reasonably happy. So Dundee, like I said, I actually made a prediction on a different thing that I do, and I said 1-0 Dundee, so I was right that they would win. But what I have to say, that first goal, and I'm sure Gregor will agree with this when he's on the chat, that goal from Lyle Cameron is absolutely sensational. The ball's played over the top. It's chased down by Scott Tiffany. Meetoff, the St Johnstone goalkeeper, comes out. Doesn't really do enough, but what a finish from Lyle Cameron. 46 yards out, doesn't even look at the goal, and it's a brilliant finish. Lyle Cameron is a brilliant young footballer, and again, another player that I think's too good for Dundee. Sorry, Gregor, but I think he's too good for Dundee. He, for me, should be at, or could be at Hearts, or Hibs, or even Aberdeen. I think he's a cracking player. But to be fair to St Johnstone, they did fight back, and I thought they actually played some decent stuff. And I know that I listened to Craig Levine's interview after the game, and I think he was right. I think St Johnstone played all right. But again, just that lack of a killer instinct. They did get the equaliser, a brilliant finish from Sidibe. Absolutely fantastic goal. And again, I think he looks all right. But is he going to score enough goals to help St Johnstone? I generally don't know. But Dundee did win the game through Bakayoko. And again, I think he looks a handful as well. And it was a big, big win for Dundee, but there was controversy towards the end. So Ryan McGowan had a goal ruled out. I think it's very, very harsh. I don't think the goalkeepers got the ball in both hands. That's what it was given for. Initially, I thought it was for foul on the goalkeeper, McCracken, but it's not. Apparently, it's for McGowan heading out his hands. I don't think he's got control of that. I think it's very, very harsh, and I think St Johnstone have been hard done by there. Now, Craig Levine actually never mentioned that. I thought he might have done, but he never mentioned it. But I thought St Johnstone were worthy of a point. But fair play to Dundee, it's a big, big win. Before I come on to St Johnstone, I just want to say that again. I've said this numerous times before, and I've said it to the boys in the chat. Dundee had a great season. I think Tony Docherty is a very good manager. Again, underrated, I think, as a manager. I think he's done a great job at Dundee. He's got a lot of young players there. A lot of young players who are going to get even better. And I think Dundee winning that game yesterday was huge. They are back in the top 6. They do have a game in hand against Rangers, though, which I don't think they'll win, if I'm going to be honest. But for Dundee, and I say this all the time, when you're a championship club, your main aim, I think, is to stay in the division. And Dundee have done that very comfortably. And I think Michael might have asked the question a couple of times on the show as well. Have Dundee punched above their weight? I think they probably have. I think they've had a fantastic season so far. And they play decent football. They try and get the ball on the ground. They press quite high up. And like I said, and guys like Luke McCowan and Lyle Cameron, I think they've got two fantastic young players there who Dundee will be very happy if they can keep hold of, but I don't think they're going to. But it was a big, big win for Dundee yesterday. And I think it'll be between them and Hibs for that last top 6 place. Because I think St Mirren will finish top 6. But it's between Dundee and Hibs for that last place. So that's going to be very interesting. I mean, if Dundee could do the unthinkable and take points off Rangers, that would be incredible. But I just don't see it. But a big, big win for Dundee. In terms of St Johnstone, what I would say is, like I did think they played better yesterday. I thought they created a lot of decent chances. But again, they just don't have that clinical edge. That's the worry that I would have for St Johnstone. I do think Sidibe looks decent. I think Kim Pioka, I've said before, I think, again, looks a really good player. But they just don't have that natural goal scorer. I think Nicky Clark is probably the most natural striker they've got. Potentially Stevie May. But again, they just, for me, don't score enough goals. I think right now St Johnstone are the team that I'd worry about for that playoff place. Sorry, Alistair, if you're watching this. But I just have a horrible feeling for St Johnstone that they could be in that relegation playoff. And if they were taking on Dundee United or Wraith, I honestly wouldn't be able to call that. I genuinely don't could call it because it would be so tight. But the one positive I would give for Alistair if he's watching this and St Johnstone fans if you're watching this, I do think St Johnstone played a lot better football than I think I've seen them do for a while. And if they just had that bit more clinical edge, they might have won that game yesterday. But like I said, big win for Dundee. I thought, again, it's a big win. And honestly, Gregor, you must be delighted with how your team's done so far. But do you think your team can get top six? Because I think it is going to go down to Dundee and Hibs. I genuinely do. But like I said, I think for St Johnstone, that late goal that they didn't get, I think is very harsh. I think the referee and VAR got that wrong because I think that should be a goal. I don't think McGowan does a lot wrong there. But like I said, a big win for Dundee. And they now play against Motherwell at home next week. Now, I'm sure that Stephen will be worried about that game next week, but we'll get to that very, very shortly. The final game, and I just talked about them there, was Motherwell against St Mirren, and it finished Motherwell 1, St Mirren 1. Marcus Fraser put St Mirren ahead after 18 minutes, but Theo Bair, with his 12th league goal of the season, did equalise. Again, watching the highlights last night, I think a draw was probably the right result. There wasn't really much in it. I mean, St Mirren did hit the bar a couple of times in that first half before Marcus Fraser gave them the lead. But again, I thought Motherwell created decent chances, especially second half. Gregor, I think it's possible it won't be easy. Yeah, I think you're right, mate. I think you are right. But honestly, I think it could go down to the last game before the split, which could be really interesting. Sorry, guys, just taking a drink because doing a talking for an hour is very difficult on your own. But it was my choice, so got my own fault. But I think I've said before, Motherwell are so up and down this season. I do think they played some decent stuff yesterday. I thought, again, Theo Bair was a real handful. I genuinely don't know where this form's coming from him. 12 goals for him this season. I don't think anyone, like I said earlier on, could have seen that coming from Theo Bair. I think it's a really good season. Now, there's been a lot of talk from certain people that think, could Theo Bair go to Hearts or Hibs? I don't think so, if I'm going to be honest. I think he should stay at Motherwell because I think needed more need of him than Hearts or Hibs are. But I thought St Mirren created decent chances first half. I don't think Marcus Fraser knows very much about the goal, but fair play to him. And again, I think looking at the highlights, I think a draw was probably fair. But like I said, St Mirren created decent chances first half at the bar through Manzon, and I can't remember the other guy that hit the bar as well, but it was just one of these games that I predicted a draw as well before the game. So again, another prediction I got right. I don't get much of these right, but I got that one right. But both teams are very, very similar. I suppose if I'm looking at it from Motherwell's point of view, I mean, it's a draw, a bad result at home against the St Mirren side that are very, very strong. Probably not. But, you know, if I'm looking at league table just now, St Mirren currently sitting 5th on 43 points. Motherwell sitting 8th on 33. I mean, could Motherwell finish top 6? Again, it's just so tight to predict. I really don't know. But I was asked in another chat earlier on today, do I think that Blair Spittle is down tools for his move to Hearts? I don't. I don't think he was great yesterday, given the highlights that I saw. But I think it's just one of these days for Spittle, just nothing really came off for him. But I think Motherwell, again, I look at it and think they had that run of 15 games that didn't win. And you're thinking Stuart Kettle might be sacked, and he didn't. And I think fair play to the Motherwell board for keeping him, because I think they have kind of picked up a little bit. But that's another home game they've not won. They didn't beat Aberdeen, although I said at the time that I don't think they deserve to lose that game, because Theo Bair's goal should not have been ruled out, and they should have had a penalty for the handball by Shinnie. So I think Motherwell were robbed there. But I think yesterday is a game that could have gone either way, but I think the draw from what I saw was probably about right. I don't know what Stephen might think about that, or any St Mirren fans in the chat. But looking at the games next week for both Motherwell and St Mirren, like I said, Motherwell go to Dundee next week. I think that's a really tough game to call. I know we'll do a show next Friday and Stephen will probably predict Motherwell will win that. But I don't think I could call that because I think both teams are very, very close. St Mirren take on Hearts next week, so that's a defeat for St Mirren. Sorry, Aislinn, if you're watching this, mate, but that's a definite defeat for you, pal. But just looking at the league table as it currently stands going into the games next week. So Celtic are top on 74 points. Rangers are second on 73 points. Hearts are third on 56. Kilmarnock are fourth on 45. St Mirren fifth on 43. Dundee sixth on 39. Hibs seventh on 38. Motherwell 8th on 33. Aberdeen are 9th, also on 33. St Johnstone in 10th on 28. Ross County in 11th on 27. And Livingston sitting in last place on 17. Looking at the games next week. On Saturday at 3 o'clock, it's Dundee against Motherwell. Hibs against St Johnstone. Kilmarnock against Ross County. Livingston against Aberdeen. And St Mirren against Hearts. And then on Sunday, the 12 o'clock kickoff, it is the big game in Glasgow. No, it's not Partick Thistle against Queen's Park. It is Rangers against Celtic. A big, big game. Before I talk about that game, I'm going to talk about the games next week. I will start with my own team. I was going to say St Mirren there. I'm not even a St Mirren fan. It's been a long hour. Hearts away to St Mirren. This is a really tough game to call. The last time we went to Paisley, got beat by 1-0. Am I confident? It depends what Hearts team turns up. I think we'll make changes next week in personnel. I know the changes that I would like to make, and I'll talk about that more next week. But I don't know what team St Mirren are going to be like next week. I think this is a really difficult game to call. Again, we'll do more next week on the show, but I think it's a tough game. I wouldn't be surprised if that was a draw. But it's a tough game to predict. Dundee Ross County, Dundee v Motherwell. Again, that could go either way. I think Dundee have looked really good at home. Motherwell have had a very up and down season, so again, that can be really difficult to call. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna predict these games now because I'm on my own, and why not? We'll do more next week, but I'm gonna go Dundee 2, Motherwell 1. Hibs against St Johnstone. I'm sorry, St Johnstone fans, if you're watching this, but I can't really see past the Hibs win here. Although I thought St Johnstone were decent yesterday, again, they just don't have enough threat going forward. Hibs looking to bounce back from that defeat yesterday, looking to try and get back in that top 6. I'm going to go Hibs 3, St Johnstone 0. Killie against Ross County. Kilmarnock, like I said, have been very impressive, and I think they're decent at home. Ross County really need the points to try and get out of that playoff place, but I think Kilmarnock at home will win that. I'm going to go Kilmarnock 2, Ross County 1. Livingston Aberdeen. I can't not predict Aberdeen because Livingston are just such a poor side. On that plastic pitch, could Livingston cause problems? Of course they could. And I've said before, I think Tete Yenge for me has been the one positive that I would take for Livingston. I think he looks a real handful. And if they can get him against that Aberdeen defence, they could cause problems, but I don't see it. I think Livingston 0, Aberdeen 2 next week. And St Mirren against Hearts, I have to go for my own team. I have to. I'm going to go St Mirren 1, Hearts 2 next week. And the big, big game, Rangers against Celtic at Ibrox. I think this is such a hard game to call. I mean, based on form, who would you go with? It is at Ibrox. Rangers are quite strong at home. I know they got beat by Motherwell, but they were decent yesterday against Hibs. Celtic have picked up. They got players back. This is so hard to call. I'm going to have Celtic and Rangers fans watching this and now going, come on, make a decision. I'm going to go Rangers 2, Celtic 1. But it's such a tough game to call. It really is. But I'm going to go Rangers to 1. I've got hiccups. Before I leave for the night, I'm going to touch on the Championship because there was a massive game in the Championship yesterday and it finished Dundee United 2, Wraith Rovers 0. And I think United deserve to win the game. I think they're the better side, again, from that very brief highlights that I saw. But Wraith do have a game in hand. Now, I heard Ian Murray after the game and, he did say that Wraith Rovers were poor, which is fine. I think United did deserve to win the game. But that's a big, big win for Jim Goodwin because he's under pressure. I know a lot of United fans that are not pleased because they think that United should be winning this league quite comfortable with the budget they've got. And I would kind of agree with that. They've not had a great season. But if I'm a United fan, again, all that matters is getting up. But that's a big, big win yesterday. They are now 4 points clear. But like I said, Wraith have a game in hand. So I wouldn't rule Wraith out completely. I think Wraith have had a decent season. And if they don't come up through the promotion, they could come up through the playoff. So again, I think it's very difficult to call that. But right now, you probably have to say that United are favourites after that win yesterday. But it's a big, big win. A game that I think Goodwin needed to win. There was a big crowd yesterday at Tannadice. Fantastic support from both teams. I think Wraith took over 2,000 of that game. I might be wrong, but I think that's what they took. Fantastic attendance for a championship game. Really, really impressed with that. But United, I think, did deserve to win. The other games, the Friday night game that finished Ayr United 2, Airdrie 1. Again, I think Ayr did deserve to win that game. I think they've had a really good season under Scott Brown. There was a decision in that game that I don't know how that's not a red card. David Munro's looking straight at it and doesn't send the guy off for a two-footed challenge. How that's not a red card, I do not know. But like I said, officiating in the country is dreadful. Other games finished Arbroath 2, Dunfermline 3. Another massive win there for James McPake because, again, I think he's a little bit of pressure. But they're up to 4th now. Big, big win for them. Morton 2, Queen's Park 0. And Partick Thistle 1, Inverness 0. So the championship table looks like this. Currently top are United on 62 points. Wraith Rovers in second on 58. Partick Thistle in third on 49. Dunfermline in fourth on 41. Morton in fifth on 40. Airdrie in sixth on 39. Ayr in seventh on 38. Queen's Park in eighth on 36. Inverness in ninth on 32. And propping up the table is Arbroath on 23. And like I said, Arbroath look like they're going to go down as well, which is a shame because it wasn't that long ago that Arbroath were fighting for getting up into the Premiership, which I'd love to see. Obviously, on the back of that, they had a really poor season. And obviously, unfortunately, Dick Campbell left, who I was a big, big fan of. I loved Dick Campbell, a big character in the game. But, you know, Arbroath do look like they're going to go down. But I've said previously, I love the Championship. I think it's a great league. And look at that, like that top four. United, Wraith, Partick, Dunfermline. It's a brilliant, brilliant top four. Still a long way to go. The playoff place is going to be interesting because there's not a lot between the teams. If I was picking my top four now, United, Wraith, and I would Partick, Thistle, and do you know what? I think Morton might sneak in there into the top four. I think Doug Imrie's done a great job. I was really impressed with them when they played against Hearts in the Scottish Cup. I thought they had a lot of good positives there. They didn't have George Oakley up front, which is a big, big bonus for us because I think he could have caused a problem. But I think Morton have had a good season. Again, you talk about punching above their weight. I think they're doing that this season. But, I mean, it generally is a great, great league. And this is what I said earlier on in my chat, that Livingston go down, they'll find it hard to come back up. And if Ross County or St Johnstone were to go down, again, they could struggle as well because it is so competitive in that league. I just think the Championship's absolutely brilliant. As a Hearts fan who's been in it before, I never want to be in there again because I didn't like it. But you know what? It's so tight, so competitive. Every team's battling for every single point. And I just think it's such a good league. And, you know, the Friday night games have actually been decent. They've been better than a lot of the Sunday games in the English Premiership. I really do believe that. But before I go, I do want to talk about something that we talk about a lot on this show, and it is officiating and VAR. Now, we are going at some point to be doing a show dedicated to VAR, and we'll hopefully have an ex-referee on the show as well to talk about it. But for me, again, this season, the standard of officiating is just at an all-time low. Now, that might seem harsh, but I generally think it has been, and the introduction of VAR has not helped at all. When it was brought in, it was meant to help referees, and I think they've got worse and they've got lazy. Now, if I go back to the Celtic game today, that incident with Kyogo and Devlin, that was a penalty. We've seen penalties given for less than that, but I think that's a penalty. Now, I'm not a Celtic fan, so again, I don't have any horse in the race here. But the officiating is so, so bad this season, and I think refs have got lazy. Because, like I said before, I think they are waiting for VAR to give a decision, so they don't have to give it, and that's not the way it should be. Make a decision, and if you got it wrong, VAR will say. But I just think the standards got worse this season, and it's every week. You look at the decision yesterday for the Rangers game. I don't think that's a penalty. But David Dickinson goes to the monitor and he still gives it. That's not a penalty for me. I just think the officiating has got a lot worse this season. Now, I don't know why that is. And I'd love to hear excuses or reasons why that is, but I just think it's got worse. Now, yesterday in the Hearts game, there wasn't any big decisions, to be honest, which is nice. And the one thing I like about the Championship is there's no VAR in it. Now, I've said before, as a fan going to a game, the enjoyment is ruined a little bit by VAR because you don't feel you can celebrate a goal. Now, yesterday, even at the Hearts game, when Hearts took the lead, I celebrated, but then I thought, right, how are they going to rule this out? What's going to happen? Now, thankfully, there's nothing to rule out. But every game now, it seems to be that you're worried that a goal's going to get ruled out for something because they seem to be looking for anything to rule a goal out. And that's, as a football fan, that's not enjoyable. I want to go to a game to see my team scoring, to see my team winning. And it just feels like VAR's ruined the enjoyment for that. But I just think the officiating for me this season has got a lot worse. And like I said, it's not just Scotland, it's England as well. The referees in England are just as bad. And I watch the, I can't remember what the show's called, but it's got like Dermot Gallagher in it, and it's then got Howard Webb in it and that. And I just think for me, it's an old pals act. They just defend the referees. Now, referees are very protected, and I know that. They're the most protected folk out there, the referees. You can't criticise them. Now, look at Brendan Rodgers. Now, the thing that he did wrong was the fact that he called out incompetence. That you can't say that. And you obviously can't talk about a referee by name because he did mention John Beaton's name, the VAR guy, twice. And that's why it's been done. But referees are protected. Now, I do get it at times. But like I said before, I would love the referees to get mic'd up like they do in rugby so you can hear what's been said. Because at least that way there's transparency. At least then you can understand why certain decisions got made. And you may not like it, but you can understand it. And it would make a lot more sense. But unfortunately, referees are so protected that you can't say anything. But I just wish the officiant was better. But like I said, we are going to do a show about officials and about VAR mainly. And hopefully get an ex-referee on, which I'm interested to hear what's going to happen with that. Because I generally am intrigued. The one thing I would say is I would not want to be a referee. You get a lot of stick. You don't get paid a lot of money, I don't think. And it's a horrible job. I wouldn't want to do it for me. I'm one of these folk that doesn't like to criticise people. But do you know what? If they make poor decisions, you're going to get criticised for it. It's just the way it is. But yeah, that's basically my thought about VAR and about officials. Anyway, I'm going to cut it short. I was going to do an hour. I've nearly done an hour, but my voice is starting to go. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for watching. We will be back next Friday. I don't know who's on next week, but I will be back. Sorry the show's been a bit rushed because I decided to do it kind of last minute. But we are back next Friday from 5 till 7, building up to the big games. And like I said, that big Rangers Celtic game next week, along with the other games next week. We're also back on next Sunday from 3 till 5, the usual time on a Sunday. And we are also going to have big other shows coming up as well. Obviously, in the build-up to Euros, which I can't wait for. We'll do a lot of shows then as well. So I hope you have a fantastic week, whatever you're doing. I know some folk are probably still off for Easter. I, unfortunately, am not. But I hope you have a cracking week. I hope you have a great week, whatever you're doing. And we shall see you again next Friday from 5 o'clock till 7. Have a good one, people. Catch you later.